Hello, everybody, and welcome to the quest for the best director podcast. I kind of changed it up there. Okay, or not.
Good
My
job.
name is Matthew Moore, and joining me is a guy who I heard one time had a diet that was exclusively stale bread and wine with sugar in it. Caleb Ferguson. Caleb, what's going on?
Oh, I'm so weak. Matthew.
Oh no, Caleb, do you have stomach cancer? Has already had stomach cancer?
Yeah.
That's correct.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I think he had cancer of almost everything.
I guess so. I guess that makes sense, huh? Well, also
Anyways, I'm
joining
doing
us.
good.
I'm glad, Caleb. You enjoy the movies this week?
I did enjoy the movies.
I know last week was honestly a bit of a snooze fest, so I'm glad it kind of picked up again this week.
I thought last week was a snooze fest until we got to talking about
Yeah,
people
oh
became
my gosh, that was so hype.
a
Woman Next
non-snooze
Door,
fest.
best movie
Came
we
in
watched so
clutch.
far.
I would disagree with that. I definitely don't think it was the best we watched so far.
Also joining us is what's his job, Caleb? Is he a gardener or a bishop? I have both written down, and I'm not sure which one he is. Well, either way, it's Derek
Technically both.
Schwarzenegger. No, you're both. Okay. Wow. What are the chances? I feel like you're not the only one of those I've met, but maybe we'll get to that in a bit. Yes, Derek Schwarzenegger. Derek, how you doing?
Pretty alright. Looking forward to talking about these movies I both enjoyed.
I'm glad. I enjoyed both these movies too. And for those who haven't got the pleasure to enjoy this movie or these movies or this podcast yet, this is the quest for the best director podcast. Each week we pit two movies or two directors against each other with each of their movies. This week's our wild card round, so we're going to the director's sixth best movies deep. Look for the deep cuts. This week is Louis Bunuel's The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie versus Robert Bresson's Diary of a Country Priest. You guys like my pronunciation?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I was actually had some bad flashbacks when we started talking exclusively in Diary. I'm like, oh no, one of these movies. But it worked out. It worked out.
Yeah.
So I guess we can just open up with Diary of a Country Priest. What are you gonna say about it, Derek?
Yeah, at first, honestly, with how they went about introducing the narrative by the diary or whatever, I was like, this is probably not gonna be good. But
then I'm like, this is gonna be corny.
Yeah, and then I was like, this is actually an interesting way to tell this story. That it's basically from the diary. So that's interesting. I've seen it done in book form, but I've never seen it done in a film form. So,
and I think it works because when films do stuff like this, they usually don't have a commitment that this film has, right?
Yeah.
Where it really is just Justin and on him the entire time. So of course the very end, which we'll get to later.
Yeah, that's the interesting part is the end, because there's two inferences that could be made from the ending.
Well, really quick before we get into that, let me summarize the movie real quick. This is Robert Bresson's Diary of a Country Priest. His first movie that really put him big on the international film circuit. It is about, oh my gosh, I should know the man's name. Derek, what's the man's name?
Which man's name?
The priest.
Oh, the priest. Isn't it something like Ludi? I think I'm something very French.
They just call him no one really calls him by his name. Dude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They just call him the priest, but the dude's name who acted is Claude Ledoux.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't actually have a name though.
No, he's the priest of the city or whatever.
Okay, so we have this priest who is in this new kind of country town, and he's an extremist. He's this very passionate young guy. He's doing this crazy diet, trying to reach out to the kids, and things just aren't going well. The kids hate him, the people hate him. He's just not very loved. But everyone understands that he means well too, which is the funny part, right? Except for maybe one person, Chantal. Was no one really actively think he's plotting against them or anything. They don't think he's necessarily super corrupt. They just
are awful
having a hard time. Yeah, exactly. So he's just trying to help this like community that's like pretty screwed, and he basically ends up risking his health to do it as he has this extreme diet that doesn't work out too well for him. And then there's this woman, I think she's just called Countess according to IMDb, and she's his daughter Chantal, and Chantal is kind of striving away from God, so he talks to her mother about about Chantal, and the next day the mother dies, and basically everyone blames the priest, saying that assuming that he must have like made her feel bad and caused her to like die from I guess bad health, bad mental health. I don't exactly understand.
Well, no,
And
the thing is, she killed herself.
oh,
Wait, no. I don't think
I don't
so.
think she did.
No,
I don't think she did.
Really? I assumed she killed herself because
I think it was like she kind of like finally had like found some sort of peace or something.
oh, I see. I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like I don't know for sure, but that's kind of the way I.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
if she kills herself, then we have to like view this movie very, very
Oh, okay.
differently.
So, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I thought it was like she found peace and then like she killed herself, not like she found peace and like she just like died from the exhaustion of living like in solitude or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Is that she died from exhaustion of living in solitude. And so then everyone blames the priest, which makes him feel even worse, makes his health even worse, until he gets stomach cancer and dies.
I thought he kind of always had stomach
Yeah,
cancer, and that's why
because-
his diet was so whack in the first place.
Yeah, because he couldn't like the thing is he couldn't like digest anything but the bread dipped in wine.
Oh, really? Was that it? I
Yeah,
assumed.
like he like just physically could not bring himself to eat anything else.
But was it always that way? Is that why he started the diet, or is that like?
Yeah,
how
that's why he starts at the beginning by saying like, when I came here, I just found it very difficult to go uphill on an empty stomach, and then he transitions to like, but the only thing I can really eat is hardened bread dipped in wine.
I see. Okay. Well, maybe you guys are right. But he gets diagnosed with stomach cancer, and it gets much worse. I think we can fairly say due to the stress and everything of
Yeah.
life. Until he eventually dies from stomach cancer. So, Derek, you want to talk about the ending? We're at the ending. He basically visits this other. He's like a former priest, right?
Yeah.
Who he wants to like abstain him from his sins, and the guy's like, I don't know if I can do that, but I think the more interesting part is that, and then he dies with a great quote, where what does it matter? All is grace is what the priest says, or the priest is quoted saying. But the ex-priest is actually what narrates this very end.
Oh no,
So Derek,
the one who narrates the end is the priest of Tercy, who's like his like
is that who?
yeah his colleague, the priest's colleague in like the town over, and then the priest of Tercy is like referring to what the ex-priest says. So that scene, like at the very end, like I think I feel like I could inference that ending as like the old priest of Tercy is like reading through priest, like our priest of this town, Ambercourt. He's like reading his diary, and like that's why we're like hearing his voice, like the priest of Ambercourt's like voice is that like the priest of Tercy is like going through the diary day by day, and that's why we get the scene at the right before that where he like dies or whatever, and we just like get like back knowledge from priest of Tercy is him like his final relating like in his diary his like final moments coming up to the ex-priest house, and that's like the last scene that we see.
That actually makes sense. So you're saying basically wow, that's actually kind of crazy.
So it's like, we're this whole time we've just been reading like this diary, and then at the last scene where he like writes his final moments, when like up to where he collapses, that's when it switches over to the priest of Tercy talking about how he died.
I like that interpretation. Caleb, you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I didn't. That definitely makes sense. I didn't see it that way when I first saw it, but like that definitely seems like it's probably what he was going for. So
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I agree.
So I don't know. It just showed a lot of commitment to this idea of a diary of a country priest, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and I guess it makes a lot more sense. Just like how it kind of pieces together is because it literally is. That makes sense.
So it's like not so much we're watching the priest going about things, but like the priest of Tursi going
Reading about the priest.
reading about
Mhm.
what the
And like
priest did.
piecing it together in his mind.
Yeah.
I think it's a good take. So, but also throughout the movie, we have a whole, hour 45 minutes of movie before that. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that. What do we think of this movie as a narrative? Because one thing I'm learning about Bresson is he is not in there for a particularly dynamic mood, is he? He really picks a mood and he sticks to it all the way through the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely the case.
Yeah, and
Yeah, at
also
first
Chet too, 100% the case.
yeah, at first like I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was that with the end with like how he's like just like talking from his diary or whatever and
Mhm.
like dulled me out from this movie a lot. Then I kind of like realized, or not so much realized, but began to appreciate because what he's trying to do is like kind of just focus in so much on this one guy that it kind of like the idea of like this dynamic change in his life is kind of stripped away because he's kind of already in this like one tone like situation. He's like so worn down and having to deal with all these situations with like Chantel and whatnot that there's not like really much variation in his life other than like increasing stress.
Yeah, I think to me at least, like I like this movie, but to me, like the single toneness of it, I agree, like kind of bored me to some extent. However, like it wasn't entirely one tone. Like I think there were a couple crucial moments that like deviated from it enough that made this like to where I didn't have the same problem with it as I did Mouchette because there was like a lot of up
Oh,
and
let's not
down.
get back on you and Mushed, okay, Caleb?
Yeah. But like the only scene where we actually see him smile is when he's riding on the motorcycle with the dude. And like to me that was like a very like realistic interpretation of like how a sad life can be because you'll just sort of randomly get these moments of like beauty and happiness to sort of just strike you in these like otherwise mundane situations. So it was a pretty cool contrast.
And I would say, like, once again, like Mushed, because of the way this story is and that it is just him, there's no reprieve from him. I also think it's realistic that it's not that the mood doesn't change too much because he is someone who's committed to God, right? Which is, if nothing else, the stability, right? And even when everything around him, like narratively, this film's kind of crazy when you think about it. Just like all the changes that happen with like several different characters.
Yeah.
But with him, he's just so at peace with all of it. Um, even if it is kind of comes across me this more sad demeanor.
Yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
also get that like one toneness, and this is kind of probably what set me off to this being like probably intentional, is that like even when the situations when like people are being like objectively like awful to him and like saying like just the most terrible things straight to his face about him, he just like completely just brushes it aside almost it seems like, and he just like, or maybe not so much
That's
brushes it
life.
aside, but he like just straightforwardly looks at it and accepts it as an actual criticism of himself and tries to like learn from it.
He faces up to it, you might say.
Yeah.
And what's cool is we kind of get his interpretation of everyone else towards the end of the movie when he just says he's talking to the one priest. He's like, they don't live like us. He's like, the guy he's talking to it says that, and then our protagonist says, yeah, they just don't have love, And I
Mm-hmm.
think that actually really informs a lot of the movie. Where like, I don't want to say pity because that feels like so negative, like such a negative term. We kind of does just almost like have this like pity for everyone he interacts with, right? Because they're just
Mm-hmm.
in such a negative space. A space that he can almost never go to, even though he comes off as such a sad boy.
It's almost like a forgive them for they know not what they do kind of thing. Kind
Yeah,
of pity.
exactly. Derek, what was your favorite? This person's really being an asshole for no reason moment.
Probably Chantel when like in that there's multiple scenes where she's awful to him, but like when she's like I think what she says is like no, everyone thinks you're a fucking drunkard, dude. Basically, it's like, what? What are you saying this to him? He's like the nicest person to you, apparently, and you're like just saying this awful shit to him. That's like attacking
Well,
him
it's
on
true,
like
wasn't it?
Is
I
he
thought
is
that,
so nice to Chantal?
I thought that was the whole thing, is that people really did think that he was an
Yeah,
alcoholic. Like,
I
everyone,
think
like,
she's right. Yeah.
yeah, I think people, the whole, like, what we're supposed to take from this is that, like, no one understands him, basically.
yeah, it is
And
like so rude though, because it's like she she's like one of the few people who probably should understand that he's not a drunkard.
That's true.
What? Oh, there's one moment I remember with there was like an older guy who's like getting really mad at him for like actually no reason.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
Oh, also that's the priest of Tercy. He's like his like
No, not
colleague.
him.
No,
Not.
you're thinking of the guy that's trying to basically, like, jip him out of some money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Give
that
him
guy.
out of some money. Which one was
It's
that?
towards the beginning of the movie.
It was very beginning, and he was just a townsperson that was getting his wife buried, and he's like,
Oh yeah, he's just a random old dude. Yeah, that was mean too.
I think it's like symptomatic of just like this guy's actually just like he takes it too. He's like, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. He's like, no, like.
wait, no, he sticks to his guns, I think, because
Yeah,
he like, she'll
No, but-
get the burial, we charge for everyone, dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, he's like we charge the
No,
same for
yeah,
everyone.
He sticks to his guns. No, but sorry, I mean like he's like his emotions.
Yeah,
make sense,
yeah,
right? Where like he's like just bunch, and then the guy goes off, and he's like, "Ah, well, I better get a free burial." And he's like, "I don't know, you're just like so at peace with everything."
Yeah,
The guy I'd want to hang out with.
sure. I actually
Caleb.
think, for me, like, the plot of this film is like the least interesting part, because I thought that, like, all of the shots and stuff were super gorgeous, and this movie was, to me at least, a lot more like aesthetically pleasing than it was narratively interesting. I mean, it wasn't bad narratively, but I thought the aesthetics like vastly
Okay.
outweighed other
So I
aspects.
kind of disagree, but take us down this. What are some shots that you like?
Okay, so a lot of them at the very beginning are super cool because they'll have the main character with like a building, and they just frame things, like frame him and the building to where like they're really able to like capture both really well and set it up in an aesthetic way. And then also like basically like managing like close-ups to wide shots to mid shots and back and forth, and like jumping between them with some degree of frequency while like
Without being distracting.
yeah, exactly, and like doing each of them really well in their own way, which is really
Yeah, and it
satisfying.
helps that with these close-ups, right? Because I think the main issue with close-ups, right, is like most of the time they're really bad.
Mhm.
And like not in this movie, I'm just saying in general, right? Which is why people don't go to them too much and they only go to them for these dramatic moments, because if like the emotion's not hitting, then just like, oh, it just really takes you out of it.
Yeah.
But he does such a great job. Claude, they do. Does such a great job acting that like it doesn't even matter.
So
You know?
I'm surprised that that's like a common take, because I know that like that's what the internet says too. And I thought he was like, he doesn't seem like a bad actor at all, but like he doesn't really do much. Like he doesn't act anything besides just like, oh.
No, it's in the subtlety, like especially
Yeah, I agree.
it definitely in the subtlety, especially in the moment when he he's like he meets the priest of Tercy for like I think the last time, and he goes back to his place, and he just like at that moment I felt a sense of clarity and at peace, because I knew I would be judged not by what I hadn't done, but like my actual actions, and each man would have to decide for himself what that meant. It was like, and the like expression on his face like mirrored that like complex emotion so perfectly. I was like legitimately impressed in like a very
Mhm.
real way.
That shot of him in the window too.
Oh yeah.
Where exactly is it in the movie? I have it. Derek, you know where it is in the movie? Where it's like snowing?
Yeah, I
Um,
think that was in like the middle-ish area. Like
yeah, I think it's like right around the time. I think it might have been right after she dies.
yeah, I think it was
I
like
remember,
I think it was like yeah, right after.
that shot coupled with like just his facial expressions were so good, and you could just really like read like everything he's feeling. but still like not in this like out of character meta sort of way. I thought it was really strong. And just in general, like once again, if you're getting like 10 billion close-ups per movie, like
Yeah.
you're probably like doing a pretty good, and you're like it doesn't like completely take you back,
That's
like
true.
take you out of the movie. You're probably pretty good at like doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially because this is his debut, so also very impressive on his part.
Yeah, this movie was like super atmospheric. I thought like at like really lulling you into this mood of like his sort of like like melancholy tranquility or something like that. And like the movie's like the way the whole movie feels like just matches how he must feel.
And
Like
I really like that. Yeah, I like how you say it lulls you in because like I think we've all three of us have said like at the beginning the movie doesn't sell you. You know what I mean? Well, we'll get
Mhm.
to the discreet charm of the bourgeois later, but that beginning really sold me.
Oh yeah.
You know, this one does not at all, and I think it makes sense, right? Because this character doesn't sell anybody at first.
Mhm.
Everyone he meets doesn't like him. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important that Bresson convinces us of why that is without ever making him do anything that's like actually, against his character, against his like moral fiber.
Mhm.
So instead he just makes him like, kind of boring and maybe like it almost feels cold until you get to like actually know him, like his demeanor towards everything, his reactions towards everything. And it like you said, it lulls you into like his frame of view until you do love this character and you do feel so much for him at the end.
Mhm.
I think that's super strong.
Yeah, it's very impressive to do that with such like most of the time. Most stories do that through like character development or like not or like changes in the narrative and like arcs and stuff like all that's story techniques. But this is just like pretty much raw like directorial work going into getting us to really care for this character that at the end we actually feel something for his death.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you want a character to be like unliked at first and liked most of the time, it's because like so like some dramatic event happens that like makes you feel bad for him, or like you said, it's like an actual change of character, right? Where he realizes the error of his ways. But this is neither of that. He's the same person the entire movie,
Yeah.
and it makes you sympathize so much more. And that's why I really like your interpretation, Derek. Of this is the priest of Torisi reading his diary because he's experiencing the same thing that we are, which is this is probably something that he like doesn't quite get, you know. And we see that from the priest of Torisi that the whole movie is that like he doesn't even like actively dislike him, like the priest of Ambercourt, the protagonist, like most characters do, but he doesn't like ever understand him. He's always telling him, fix your diet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we begin to understand him, so does the priest of Torisi reading it, which I think like there's I really love your interpretation of it, Derek.
I actually slightly disagree with what you say about like how he never changes because I think he does change a little bit. Like he stands up for himself a little bit more as the story goes on.
Like when? Like I mean, he stands up for himself at the beginning too, right? With like we were just saying of the funeral guy and that stuff.
I don't know. I think like he definitely seemed a little bit more of a pushover, and then like particularly like when he's doing his like big kind of conversion or speech or whatever you want to call it to the old lady, and she's like kind of trying to push him up against the wall, and he's kind of acting like a pushover. And then I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says something that's like in direct defiance of her. And at that moment, I was like, okay, this seems like a little bit different than what he would normally do. He's actually sticking up for himself a little bit for her.
See, I don't know though if it was him thinking of himself before her as much as it was just like him knowing what needed to be said in that moment. Like, it doesn't even say that like I didn't know what I was saying. That was God saying it through me. Or
Oh,
that
that was a different. I think that was a
earlier.
slightly
With,
earlier
yeah,
scene, but
that was earlier with Chantal, wasn't it?
But I think that idea is the same, honestly. For
Yeah,
this guy, I don't
like
think he's so I don't want to say simple because that's kind of like negative, but he lives so simply that he doesn't really live for himself, but his like belief itself. So much.
yeah. I don't think he would ever do anything for himself. I think
it's
that
it's
would
not like that. it's not like he's doing it for himself, but he's at least like sticking to his guns a little bit more. And I don't think it's like a huge transition, but I do think there's a little subtle turn where he kind of like he's kind of pushed up against the wall, and then he specifically describes himself that way, like he felt like a child or something like that,
Oh
or
yeah,
and
yeah,
then he kind of has this like turn right afterwards where he's like, no, I disagree, and like kind of goes off a little bit.
yeah. That's a definitely a little bit of a change, but I don't think it's so
But
much
it's just
that it's like an actual like arc per se. I think that's more like uh kind of a transition in like thematically what's going on.
well, I would also that it should change like how he behaves, but it's not really a change in who he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He's like coming into himself a little bit.
Yeah. What else do we want to say about the movie? What do you guys think of that confessional scene?
Oh,
The confession scene with
oh, that was a good shot
Raquel. It was
with
some
her
sick
face
stuff, huh?
like
Yeah, and like
looming
completely
out of the
black.
darkness. Yep, that was cool.
And she's calling him the devil, which is just like really backwards with like the basic
Yeah,
nature of the scene with her being in the all black background. That's some good
yeah.
stuff.
So I thought it was really powerful to have a priest character that whose main dilemma is that he can't pray.
Yeah, that was really cool.
'Cause,
I
like
like that whole like
and
idea.
and like the power of that for like a priest is like very I think established fairly well in that
Hmm.
because the priest of Tursi just like or at least for our priest it's established very well because for the priest of Tursi it's just like just say the words and he just like straight tells them our priest he's like priest of Amocrat's like I just can't pray and he's like just say the words is like but our priest is so simple that like to like just say the words it would go against like all he believes.
Yeah.
I actually kind of want to make a slight contradiction to what like y'all said earlier about like the people in this. A lot of people in this movie like don't like him or are actively mean to him because I think that's not really the case. And there's actually like, and not everyone's nice to him. Obviously, there's some people that are mean to him, but I would say like for the most part, people at least like are somewhat kind to him and treat him respectfully. They just completely fail to understand him and like misunderstand him at every
Except
turn.
for like apparently like one of the people he just goes randomly to talk to like check off his list tries to poison him. Actually does poison him.
Yeah.
Wait, who's this? I wasn't sure about that. I thought that
Yeah,
was like a metaphor.
no, they literally
No.
poison him. The child actually says like, yeah, they like to do that to for fun.
Well, that's like the children, right?
No, the actual adult gives him. We see her give him like the cup. He drinks it. He leaves. He's like, I gotta go
Yeah.
now.
Hmm. I guess I missed that part.
Yeah, no, I mean people are definitely dislike him. I mean once again, who besides the priests are like nice to him?
Yeah,
At least at
it's pretty
first.
much just the priest and the Chantel's cousin that are nice to him, and also the yeah. So it's like the people who know him, like
Really just those two though.
really
The
really,
Really
co-
just
the
those two.
the count is nice. The count is pretty much nice to him.
except for
Uh,
I don't know
the
about
countess
that.
is nice to him.
You like say some
The
very
guy,
mean things.
the guy on the bike that's like the soldier. I mean, yeah, she's not like his best friend or anything, because that's my point. Is that like they completely don't understand him or like what he's about. But like it's not like they all like despise him. I don't think he just
Yeah,
like has trouble relating, basically.
we're not saying that the all of them despise him, but we're saying that most of them are very negative to him.
And
Yeah, I
yeah, they
mean,
just
I
act in a
agree, but
way that
it's
is like counterproductive to what he is trying to accomplish in life, right?
yeah, and it's like, but I don't think it's because like we're not supposed to like parse this as like they're bad people necessarily, or at least most of them. It's mostly just like they're like on a whole different level than he is.
Well, yeah, no, they're not bad people because we also just like him at first, at least to some extent, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I don't think we're bad people, you know. But then it makes you
Hmm.
question, like, are we bad people? Because once you see him, he is such a good person. Like he says, once again, like that line about the love, it's like how all these other people just like aren't filled with love. So maybe they are not bad people, but just loveless people.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know?
Yeah, I agree.
Derek, are you filled with love?
I'm filled with bodily fluids and organs.
Well,
This movie also had some pretty good quotes that I can dig into in that time.
hit us with some. Well, wait. Don't answer them yet. We'll get to that. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll get that when we get there. What other like shots do we like?
Oh, my favorite in the whole movie is when he's at the hospital. I think it's the hospital, and then he goes to like the where the priests are, like the priest house in the city, and it's like the transition from the closing of the hospital door to the opening of the priest door, and it's like very clean. It's like the light of the hospital door closing, and as it does, he steps into like the street of the priest door, and it's like opening of the priest door as it closes, and it's just like really, really good stuff.
I think I know what you're talking about, and I did like that shot. I remember thinking, "Ooh, that was a good shot." Can I ask you guys a question about some dialogue in the movie that I want to unpack?
Mm-hmm.
There was one point, I believe he was talking to Chantal. I should really like write the characters' names down when I do these quotes, but I don't. And she asks him like, "Do you have a secret?" I guess like it's like a secret. It's like how you're always so calm and stuff, and like how you're always just like. And it's like a lost secret. You too will find it and lose it in time, as others will after you.
Oh yeah.
There's more after that I wasn't able to write down. But what'd you guys think of that?
I didn't get it. I was pretty lost.
Yeah.
I was lost too.
I was kind of lost, as I was pretty lost as well. But then I was like, this is just a good quote, but I don't think I get it. That was pretty much my impression of it.
My only guess was like the secret was love,
Yeah, I think that was.
and people lose love, and
Yeah, I think that makes sense thematically for sure. That makes sense.
also one thing I really thought was sick is how he stopped. And I guess this is the one thing that kind of discredits your take of it, Derek, where he stops saying it out loud once he's like sick. Once he gets really sick, he can no longer like read his diary out loud.
Hmm.
Actually, maybe that's when he stops writing his diary. And that's why we see in his last moments him like finishing up his diary, and he collapses.
But we do see him. I mean, because we just see the words, right? We just see the words writing. We don't see.
I don't know. But I suppose that makes sense.
It could be. I mean, I think you're both could still be in the same
Yeah,
universe. I just think it's.
It's just
I
inference
thought it
anyway.
was cool though.
Yeah.
That was one of the great things about this movie, I think, is how it, like, the narration, like, really complemented what was going on and, like,
Mhm.
provided detail to a scene that, like, the camera couldn't easily give us without, like, really having to go out of his way. Like, when the doctor is, like, feeling his stomach and it mentioned how his hands are so, like, thick and, like, unsanitized from hunting or something like that, like, that would be pretty hard to, like, show, like, from the camera, but it adds so much to the scene, I think.
I agree, but like, it's never like in a super lazy way, right? Where it's like this is exactly what's happening. It's just the stuff that like we need.
Exactly, it always adds something, yeah. And I think that's like a really good way of like how to do a book, because this was a really book. This is a good way of how to do a book adaptation, like of really using this um, narration like actively within the scene, like not just to introduce a scene, but like within a scene as well to like always add something.
Both of these movies are definitely movies that like I want to watch again. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like get a fuller understanding.
Yeah, I think that's all I got for this movie.
Yeah, I have a lot of notes on the Discreet, Charming, and the Bourgeois,
Yeah.
and despite all my notes and reading my notes, I still don't understand the movie. So let's talk about it. The Discreet, Charming, and the Bourgeoisie. It is, anyways, and the three guys are all in a cocaine business together, and the guy who's the ambassador of Miranda is being hunted down by these spies, and what eventually happens is I'm trying to think of like actual plot progression. I get like the actual plot progression confused with the dream sequences.
Yeah.
They end up getting arrested for sure.
Yeah, they're arrested.
And a bunch of zany stuff happens in between, and they get released for unknown reasons. And I think we can kind of start
the
diving into the movie
minister or
because-
whatever it calls the detective and's like, yeah, release him. It's like, why we're having we need diplomatic relations to be improve in Latin America. And
No,
you're
but
whatnot.
it's also like very very like advertently like I guess very intentionally. We don't know the exact reasons though, right?
Oh
Because
yeah.
there's the whole noise thing.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's supposed to be like a sign for like, rich people shenanigans being able to
Yeah,
get in
exactly.
trouble.
Like it doesn't actually matter why.
Yeah.
I think. How do you want to tackle this movie? Do you want to go through chronologically? What's the deal?
I think the movie was all about colors, boys. Let's analyze it by color.
Really? I was not on that level, but hit us through your color take, Caleb.
Alright. So I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like the three primary colors always pop up. And also all of the characters, except for like in a couple scenes, like you guys know the one girl that's a blonde and she's always drunk?
Yes.
So she's except in like one scene, she's the only character who is wearing colorful stuff, and it's always primary colors too. And everyone else is like almost always dressed in like really drab grays. And I'm not sure why that was the case because uh I don't know besides getting drunk a lot, like what sets her apart. Oh, that was the other thing too. So can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Continue.
Okay, so I'm not sure like what about her makes her set apart, but the only major difference that I can tell is that the whole shtick of this movie is that they never get to actually eat or consume anything hardly. And she's the one character that when she consumes to excess by like always getting violently. So for whatever reason, she's been set apart.
Yeah, I actually noticed that as well. That she like when she gets drunk, when she drinks, she gets drunk. When she eats, she actually do they ever actually eat?
They do, but not very often. They almost always get
Yeah.
interrupted.
Which
She also what she does. I noticed in like the scene when they're talking about when the Mr. Sinclair or something, I can't pronounce it, Seneschal, whatever. He's like, hey, Raphael, you have like Mr. von Hausen in your country who's like who's a Nazi and setting up a concentration camp. And then she, the one who drinks to excess, is like, I guess he's a real life butcher. Uh, and then so it's like she's always, and then like the rest of them are like, that's a little far. He's like a gentleman. He's nice. I
Yeah.
know him. I've hung out with him. So it's like
Yeah, no.
she's always introducing like these kind of like contradictory ideas.
Mm-hmm. But like I don't know like why besides that she would be that character. Like she doesn't really do anything else. It's definitely interesting.
It's
well, she's
probably
the only one that's not involved romantically with anybody as well, right?
yeah.
True.
So probably to separate her out, she gave the colors and the other character traits.
Makes sense.
Which is a interesting detail.
Now, one thing we get a lot of in this movie is panning shots. Did you guys notice that?
I actually didn't. I noticed that there were a lot of very strange cuts though.
There's a bunch of panning shots all throughout the movie. There's pans, pans, pans. When they're walking down that road, there's pans.
Yeah.
When they're eating dinner, there's pans. He loves his pans. And I'm not also not sure why about that. Why that's the case in this movie. Why what is the effect of a panning shot? Because it's always the panning from character to character. It's never like, panning to check out the room or anything like that.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. It doesn't. He was just doing all sorts of weird stuff with camera things, like at weird angles. So like he'll cut and it'll start showing the room at like from a completely different angle that we hadn't seen before. And then in addition, he would do this like weird stuff with like um basically like the entire movie is kind of shot from this like wide angle, almost like a sitcom, where like you can just like see the room and everybody's like sitting in the room together. But then every once in a while, he would just like cut to these like really close up dramatic shots that like completely like
Mhm.
change the tone of what you were looking at. And I don't know, it was really fascinating.
And make you
Actually, that
feel
might
like way more serious, even when it's like not even necessarily like a serious scene.
exactly. And actually, that might be one way that this woman that we were speaking about has been set apart. Because I think towards the end of the movie, he does that to her, and like that was one of the most notable times it was done. When she's just like monologuing about something, and all of a sudden it pops into this like really like dramatic shot, which is really cool. Like it sort of almost like taught me about like what camera angles do for tone, which is pretty interesting.
But yeah, I think there's like a lot of like excess suspense. You know, like because these panning shots, they kind of accomplish the same thing, right? Where it's like the panning shot kind of adds like an air of mysteries. Think, oh my gosh, why am I spacing out the name of this movie, guys? Help me out here.
Discreet charm.
No, Quentin Tarantino, like his first movie.
Oh, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I think like Reservoir Dogs, right? Like that scene at the beginning, right, where they're all like around the table and it's this pan. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, except yeah, it's suspense. I think this is accomplishing the same thing.
True. Yeah, that's probably fair.
But it's a weird movie to have suspense for because other than them going to jail like very briefly, it never really gets that dramatic.
Yeah, it's kind of just like a series of gags.
Yeah, like it's almost like he's fooling the audience, right?
Yeah.
Seems like more of a conversation between like Bunuel and us, and less like between these characters, where he's always just like pulling one over on us with these dream sequences and stuff. And did you guys also fall for every single dream sequence?
Not entirely, because I think eventually, like, the gag was coming up so much that I was like, yeah, that's probably a dream. This is probably a dream.
Really? I think the only one I didn't fall for was the police one, but because that one was just so obvious.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think I fell for all of them.
Yeah, I fell for except for the one that was like definitely a dream sequence where he like tells you it was a dream he had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like I'm pretty sure I fell for all of them.
Which is also the ultimate joke, right? It's such that moment is so bizarre.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my
And,
god,
like,
that was
that's
hilarious.
what's weird about this movie is that like some of the bizarre things people like comment on, in depth, and then stuff like that, like where one of the characters, for the audience who doesn't know, there's like this army garrison staying with this infantry unit staying with them to have dinner, who
Just
come
out of nowhere.
unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely come out unexpectedly, and then like they all start panicking. The hosts do, and they have to like get more tables, more chairs, and everyone finally sits down. They have to find food in their kitchen because they didn't plan to have like 15 more people come to eat. And they finally get everything ready, and then this one guy comes in and he's like, "It's time to go, sir. We have to fight." And like no one before anyone gets a chance to eat or anything, is like, "Okay."
And then when they're leaving,
And he whispers to him.
yeah,
He whispers to him like it's some big secret. Like he has a dream to tell us. Like a dream. Like okay, this is interesting, but it's just completely random, not important at all. Like I
Although
said, it's
the
more
funny part
about
about
messing
that
with us than anything. Yeah.
is that dream sequence or that dream scene was actually like beautiful,
Oh yeah, no, it was really pretty.
and like that was like yeah, I don't know, that was like maybe my favorite scenes from the movie. It's hilarious. It like has nothing to do with anything, and it's just like some random gorgeous dream sequence. Although it wasn't completely like had no context because a similar situation had previously happened to the ladies in the diner. When
yeah.
like the army comes up and he's like, by the way, I'm just gonna like spill some crazy shit on you out of nowhere.
That's a bit different, but yeah, where that's like his actual life apparently, which makes it even funnier. But yeah, where they threw him in or at a diner and this guy asks to sit with them, you're like, oh, there's gonna be like some sexual tension here, and he just like tells them like the most messed up story about how he shoots his father, which is just like what?
Yeah, and then they
Yeah.
just completely act nonchalant about it, and then they get upset over not being able to be served coffee.
Yeah.
They're like,
Yeah.
they're more upset about this dude confessing to killing, less upset about this dude killing his father than not being served tea.
No tea, for the no tea, no coffee thing. It's pretty weird too. Like, what did they have there? As I'm saying, there's just so many like little bizarre things, like stuff like that they comment on, right? But they don't comment
Yeah.
on, like you said, the guy shooting his father.
And like, that's really true. This movie basically is like a series of like extremely bizarre events, like the dead guy in like the restaurant, like just in the casket.
Yeah, I forgot about that. At the time, like you don't think it's funny because like it's the beginning of the movie and you're like trying to take everything so seriously because it does kind of set itself up for like a mystery sort of thing, right? You're trying to think like what's because like you of course you also have like we alluded to at the top of the podcast. You have this bishop who's also the gardener. Like, where does he fit into all of this? And all this stuff, and it's just none of it goes anywhere.
Well, I know what the bishop thing is all about. It's basically like, because this whole movie's about the bourgeoisie, right? So the clergy and the military end up being their two buddies, and that's like sort of a very like Marxist analysis of like how the ruling class controls everything, with the clergy to manipulate their minds and the military to keep them in line. So it's basically painting this picture of the bourgeoisie, the military, and the clergy like all being in bed together, basically.
Well, no, I do understand that too, but my point was that like when you're watching this as a naive viewer, you think that the bishop has like some like greater part in some like scheme, right? Because his introduction is so weird,
Yeah.
where he asks if like where the gardener garden shed is, and he goes dressed up as the gardener, comes in, says, "I'm the bishop." Like, no, you're not. You're some random homeless person. And he's like, "Oh man!" And he goes back, puts on his bishop clothes, like, "I'm the bishop." Like, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry." He's
Yeah, it's pretty.
where's this going? This feels like some kind of caper, but once again, none of it leads anywhere. And of course, with the whole like spies and stuff, which once
Mhm.
again goes nowhere, except it goes to these like, and it leads to like these almost climaxes, right? Like these dreams almost represent like where this story could go, but
Yeah,
it's like, nope, we're
exactly.
gonna continue it.
It's not.
Yep.
That's the thing. That's what I noticed. The dreams don't so much what there could go, or also that, but what they fear. Like the Mr. Chanel is like has stage fright, so he ends up all of a sudden on a stage when he just wants to go to a dinner, and then he's like, "Oh no, I forgot my lines," and then it ends, and he's like all scared and stuff.
But then that's not even his dream.
Oh yeah, that's the weird thing too, is they'll have like
Yeah,
dreams within
yeah,
dreams.
that was the most hilarious part because then it turns out it's I think his name Francois's dream of him dreaming that.
So it's just like, what? Where did this come from? But you just got to accept it.
Also, the priest going to give absolution to a dying man who turns out to be the former gardener of his family who killed his
He
family.
killed both of his parents. Like stuff, as I'm saying, stuff like that. Like it almost feels like Pulp Fiction, but it's like somehow both more and less pretentious.
Yeah, it's like pretty
I was
zany
like
stuff
more
going on.
pretentious, but like also even more self-aware of what it is.
Also, I think that's probably why he's a gardener and a priest, is because it's important that he learns gardening from this man, and then
yeah. Oh yeah, that's totally it.
and then he's a priest, so he gives him absolution.
Yeah.
So literally, he set up that character for that joke, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just like this one really bizarre moment. And the thing is, like, that wasn't a dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was completely real. And it's just like, that's why when you say, Caleb, like, you got it all, like, I didn't, because the things I thought were dreams weren't dreams. I was sure the priest, the bishop, rather, didn't shoot anybody. But he did.
Yeah.
And I have multiple times, what's up with the bishop? What's his deal? This bishop can't actually be a bishop, can he? And no, he's exactly what he says.
I thought he was a spy, but yeah, you just kind of got to roll with it.
Yeah.
Also, like the first part, I wanted to mention it real quick, but when they go to the restaurant and it's like there's a dead guy in the back, and they're like, half of them are like, we should still eat here, and that one lady who drinks to excess, I think, might be the one that's like, I don't want to drink, I don't want to eat here.
Yeah. Radical concepts.
That's and the rest of them are like, why not? Let's just eat here, and then because it's like I feel like the difference is like thematic, because like most of these bourgeois people don't like care as long as they're being served what they want, and they like feel like they deserve what they want no matter the cost. It seems like, and then she's like the only one that sees it otherwise. So she's kind of like the contrast that we get to have in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because like,
what's actually the end of this movie? Like, what's like the last like diegetic thing we have? Sorry,
I just wanted to say real quick, because it's like, even I think it was important a decision on his part. Even the people who are like the servants or whatever just don't care what they do. Like, yeah, we'll keep serving you even though we have like a dead guy in the back of our restaurant. It's fine. So it's like this one person that's like supposed to be like, contrasting both like the norms of the group she's in and like the apparent norms of like the society that just accepts this behavior.
Let's see.
What's the what? I think the ending is them walking down the isolated country road.
Like, okay, but what, I mean before that, I guess. Like, what's like the actual like last like? Is it just them getting let out of jail? Is the last like big thing that happens? It's like actually real. Well, obviously the bishop thing happens around that time too, right?
I guess. I don't. I'd have to look. Second.
Yeah, I feel like that's what's so weird is we don't get a proper ending because I don't know, Caleb. I guess you're smarter than me, but I really did believe like when the guys come in and shoot everyone, I thought that was our
the end.
ending.
The end is him waking up from the dream and going to the kitchen, because he in the dream he went and he got exposed because he tried to grab the food that he was just eating off the table, so he gets like gunned down, and then he goes back. He wakes up, goes to the kitchen after he just got like scared, and goes to eat. So that's the ending.
Well, no, then we also have they have them walking down the road after that.
Yeah, but that's like the last thing,
Yeah.
other than them walking down the road.
Yeah, that's all. But yeah, just you really want that to be your ending, right? You really want them all getting shot to be your proper ending, but it's not. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that one definitely got me. I was like, holy shit, they just got gunned down, and I at that point I was kind of like, yeah, they kind of deserve it. They're kind of assholes. But it's like,
definitely makes sense.
it's like I kind of expect. It's like, of course, if you do like all this shady drug trafficking like stuff, and you have like terrorists after you, you're gonna get gunned down. So it's like,
yeah. At some point, they can't keep getting away with everything. I guess that's the point, right? Is that these are all things that could happen, and like for most people, these things that would happen to them, but for the rich, these are things that like. I mean, maybe you're right, Jake. Maybe they are afraid of, but things that will like never actually happen to them.
Yeah, that's the thing. This dude's never gonna be like on the stage just like forgetting his lines. He's not an actor.
Yeah, he never has to be on the stage. He
So,
just operate in the background.
So maybe that's the comment, is that they have these fears, perhaps, but it doesn't matter for them. They live in such a position that and have such a status that they don't have to worry about such things.
There you go. We're figuring stuff out already. We still have some more movie to talk about. Yeah, there's just like so many like little bizarre things, like that the affair scene.
Oh yeah, that was actually hilarious. The dude's just like, yeah, your wife's in the back. She's been here for 5 minutes, dude. And it's like, you just tell him?
No. She says it.
No, he tells him, the Francois, and then she just comes out like, I swear to God, that's how it happened.
I promise you, I will bet money on this one. She yells something, and then he's like, "Oh, that," and then the guy's like, "Who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's your wife." That's what happens.
Yeah. Also, that scene was actually hilarious when like he still wants to have sex with her like after he's like wants to go, and he's like, no, wait a minute, your wife and I have to look at the cervix, and he's like, the cervix, and he's like, yes. And he's like, okay, and like it's like literally just a made up word.
And also, I think like I could be wrong. He takes Viagra, right?
Oh yeah, I thought so too.
Oh yeah, she asked who is it, and then he's like, yeah, that's your wife. They're like, that's my wife. And then he's like, that's odd. Yeah, she's been here for 5 minutes, just chilling.
And yeah, so it's her that reveals it. And and that's what's funny is like he has to play off like her self-sabotaging basically. I don't know. I guess she thinks it's like some sign is what I took from it, but also taking anything from this movie is like kind of absurd. But yeah, just once again, that's something they just get away with, right? Because why wouldn't they?
Yeah, that scene.
Then, yeah, it's
okay.
even funnier because yeah, he's like totally Viagra out of his mind in this scene.
Oh, I didn't think about that part of things. Yeah, that's funny.
And that's when, because right after is when the spy woman comes in, and I thought that's what that was going to, is that they're gonna have sex, because he's still Viagra out of his mind, but then he just lets her go.
And then she gets captured and presumably taken away by his associates.
I liked her.
Okay, when she's first introduced by him literally shooting a gun at her toy in the street and no one reacts and she just like walks off, like what the fuck? He just pulls out a gun and
I first realized like, okay, I shouldn't be taking this movie as seriously as I'm taking it. Was that scene?
yeah. That was good
I
stuff.
wrote, did he just shoot a stuffed dog? It's like a giant gun too. He has like a scope and everything.
Yeah.
And then of course also we have I don't know. I guess we're gonna be revealing, my favorite scene part. But this is my favorite scene in either movie. At least in the Discreet Charm is when they come over for I guess the second time, but the first time when everyone's on the same page, and the host couple that's always hosting for some reason.
Oh yeah, that
I'll
scene.
get to in a bit. They're having sex, so they try to escape the house to have sex, and then they're like, "Where are they? Where could they be? Oh my gosh, maybe it's like, maybe the cops are here. We need to go." So they all leave.
Yeah, like
And they're like, "Why'd they go? That's so rude." And they're like tiptoeing under the window when like no one's in the house.
And then they're covered in grass. Their hair has grass in it and stuff.
And they'll like pick out one piece of grass, but they won't pick out the rest.
Yes. Oh my god. And then the priest, at the end of the scene, like the priest takes the grass out of the dude's hair. Like,
And then of course you have the girl, the waitress girl, who's apparently 52 or not. I guess it's part of a dream sequence too. But in this,
yeah, that was the hilarious part. Like, why does this dude dream that this 20-year-old looking like waitress is actually 52?
52.
Oh yeah, that was the first part for sure. I was like, I can't tell if they're joking or like, what's going on here?
Yeah. And then he realizes it's a dream, and it kind of makes sense. And that's the thing. I'm saying like, Bunuel literally just messes with you because like you should know right then and there that she is not 52, and this is like clearly like dream logic. And that's also compliments to Bunuel because that's exactly how dream logic works.
It's actually true. He really captures that essence pretty effectively.
Especially how like, okay, this might be like going too far or inferring too much, but like how when in that dream first or the second one with the like private who stands up and they to tell his dream to like everyone in the battalion or whatever.
Sure.
Like the first dude he meets is like, we don't know who that is, but he knows who it is. So in his mind, in his dream state, he's like perfect logic. But for us, that makes no sense. And he just like the dude just steps off screen, and it's like it just cut off. He disappears, and it's like almost like nothing. Just it's like we have no idea what just happened. And it's like the next dude comes and is like, "Hey, was that Ramirez?" Is like, "Yeah, that was Ramirez." It's like he's dead. It's like, what? Oh shit, he's dead. And it's like maybe he's about to realize this is a dream. It's like, but in your dream state, you're not like thinking this is a dream. Yeah. It's like, oh, that's Ramirez. I haven't seen him in years. He just died. What the hell? He yeah. How did I see him? He's been dead.
That's the best part is they point out like how ludicrous these dreams are and how like obviously fake they must be, which makes it even worse when you fall for it again. Like, because then right after that is the stage dream sequence, which is like so obviously fake, but like I totally bought it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is genius. I love where this movie's going. And then he wakes up. I was like, oh man.
Also,
Caleb, I know you're very okay. Go for it, Derek.
I want to shout out the dude who was like calling out their lines from under the stage. He's a real MVP.
He's funny. Caleb, I know you have a weird thing with dream sequences. What were your thoughts on the dream sequences?
Oh, I'm glad you asked because I did have a monologue about dream sequence. This movie's very interesting. because it does dream sequences in both a way that I like and a way that I don't. It deliberately does both. So the dream sequences, like the one that I specifically mentioned, were super beautiful. Like the one where like you pretty much know it's a dream, but it's done in like a gorgeous way, and it's like a really validating dream sequence. I love that one. But then a lot of the like ha gotcha dream sequences I find pretty annoying, and like obviously it's part of the gag of the movie. So it's okay that it's annoying because I think it's kind of supposed to be that way.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. That's the issue, right? It's like you want to be like, don't do this, but now this is
yeah,
irresponsible. But then, like that's the whole point. Is that he's like fooling you with these dream sequences. So
yeah, but it is annoying, but it's kind of supposed to be, so it's okay. But yeah, it's cool because they do uh, validating dream sequences and annoying dream sequences simultaneously. Very.
That's also interesting. Going back to that one like private's dream, like the last person he sees is like his like lost love,
well, yeah,
presumably, and it's like validating
that
that
got
like
heavy, huh?
that was like validating for him in like his validating dream that she actually cared for him and that she was wrong and he was right. And like in your dream, obviously your subconscious is trying to make your like harmful memories like repair itself, and that's like an easy way to do so.
Mhm.
And I think another reason like these dream sequences work so well as like a full like gotcha kind of thing is because he makes real life just absurd enough, but not too absurd that it all works. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like there's just so many like, weird little things that could also be in a dream, but just like aren't. Like we were saying, that scene where the three go out to get coffee and the guy talks to them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's so much weird stuff going on. Like obviously we already talked about the guy, going up to him. His opening line is, "Did you have a happy childhood?" And then he goes into this whole like really depressing killed his father thing. But then also just like the this is the girl. I think that scene opens up with the girl being like, "I don't like cellos. Can we switch seats so I don't have to look at the guy playing the cello?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like stuff like that. Like should also maybe be in a dream sequence, but it's not. And I think it kind of points out the absurdity of life and just like how incredibly ridiculous it is that these people do get away with all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
And just like yeah, just like how like far from reality like these people are, or like, and of course another great moment that encapsulates that is when he invites the is it like the driver in to have a drink of a martini,
Mhm.
and he's like, everyone knows you sip on martinis.
Oh my
Look,
god, yeah.
let's call in the driver, and the driver like gulps. And he's like, see, what did I say? Only idiots don't sip on martinis. It's
The,
just like
the
what?
ungrateful masses at it again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like you realize how absurd their life is. These are things that they remotely care about. And the reason that they can care about these things because they don't have to worry about, like their cocaine business actually getting them in trouble. Or they don't have to worry about, like ever being publicly embarrassed. Stuff like
Mhm.
that. They don't have to worry about, anyone ever actually being blatantly rude to them, like the one guy's dream is, right? Where he goes to the party and everyone's like just dogging on Miranda.
Mhm.
These are things they don't have to worry about. So they get to worry about like these little bizarre trivial things, like you were saying, Derek, like the whole like tea coffee thing. Like the only reason they can afford to worry about that is because they don't actually like care about this guy who like murdered his own father because it's something they just don't even like think about caring about.
Mhm. It's I don't know, it's such a I don't know, it's such an interesting way to go about that. That's what sums up my feeling of this movie. Is like just
Yeah,
so interesting how he does all these things.
guys, I'm really conflicted. I have no idea what these movies I'm gonna vote for. I was
I
really
know.
hoping like I'd be able to reach some sort of conclusion one way or the other.
It's all right.
Maybe you and Caleb will be on the same page, and I can
I
just
think we
abstain.
are.
Okay, well, let's see.
But and then it's like
What you got from the movie? Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know. There's just a couple little things that I liked, like when the cavalry actually leaves and starts like blowing shit up outside, and everyone just like, you want some more lamb? Even though there's like some like 44 artillery going on outside, literally shaking the house.
No one cares. It's like they don't have to. They just have to worry about eating.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's such an interesting way to set all these things up. and it's just hilarious as well. So it's like he's found a perfect way to like multifaceted way to go about doing the story and keeping the audience entertained that I really appreciate.
I agree. And yeah, I think, like I said, the only thing that bothered me was like the dream sequences thing. But then, like once that you guys that's completely his point, I feel like that can't really bother me anymore because it was supposed to bother me. So
Mhm.
accomplish his job. Yeah. So do we want to go into the voting?
Yeah.
Favorite quote?
Probably from the Diary of a Country Priest. When he's talking to like the cousin of Chantal, he's like, "I don't reject the world, but it lacks love. Our chaps don't have your wisdom in the matter. God seems to them to stand for a justice they despise, a justice without honor. Their own law has the merit of costing a lot, an awful lot. It's like a sacrificial altar."
It's one of the ones I had written down too. Yeah, that's a really sick quote.
I really like that, and it has a lot of things in it. I don't know. I don't think I fully understand what he's saying yet, so it's just good for me to think about.
For sure.
Mine is in this sorry world, the night undoes the order of the day. And then as a runner-up, because it's kind of fits in with the theme of that quote, it's carry on. What else can I say?
I like that one. You guys both did Diary of a Country Priest. So I'm gonna go with one from the Discreet Charm of the Bourgeois. Which it's like just a very funny, absurd quote. But when right before the bishop goes in to talk to the guy which you're gonna find out is the one that murdered his parents. It's like talking to that woman that eventually that gets him to come over there.
Yeah.
I want to tell you something. I don't like Jesus Christ at all. It's just like what? I busted up laughing when I heard that one. So I'm gonna go with that as my favorite quote. Favorite scene.
In this, there's a lot, but in Discreet, there's the one scene where, I think it's the police dream sequence, where, or no, it's not. Never mind. Actually, yeah, it is. Where the detective is talking to like the minister or whatnot, and like the loud sound that's like exactly the third time it's been done is when the loud sound goes over something that's being said, and then the detective's like, "Wait, can you repeat that? I didn't hear you. What he said." It was like just meta enough that I like died laughing. It's like just referencing that loud noise, like for the audience, the loud noise is what they can't hear over, but for the detective, it's something entirely different. But it's like just enough meta level to that it is like really good. And then they do it like back to back right after twice in like two different scenes.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a great. Yeah, just keep Charming the Bourgeois has a few great scenes. I don't know if that would have been my choice, but I think that's a good one. Caleb, favorite scene?
I liked the scene in Diary where he's doing his kind of like big monologue to the old lady, and like all of a sudden they start getting into the Lord's Prayer, and like there's something about the dialogue just was so intense.
I really like simple dialogue that's still like very beautiful and poetic. I think that scene has a lot of that.
Yep, for sure.
I already said my favorite scene, which is the whole, they go over to dinner, I guess for like the first / second time, depending on how you look at it, and the couple's having sex in the woods, which by the way, I love how their reason for that is because she screams too loud.
Yeah.
Which is just like so asinine and like on his part to even say. Just so absurd. And yeah, and then just like the whole sneaking out, every single character with like almost all of our characters have like very different interpretations of the situation that's happening, and I love that. And the only one that actually knows any information is the maid, and she like doesn't care about it because her it's just ritual shenanigans. She's trying to do her job of getting the food ready for a group that turns out isn't even going to eat it. Yeah, I love that scene. I think it's so brilliant. Okay, I think we can all. Maybe we can't. I think we can all agree on best performance.
Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, be our priest of wherever.
Lumbercourt.
Umbercourt.
Yeah, definitely. That dude. Whatever. I don't know. I looked up his filmography afterwards. He has like one more movie, it seems like, and that's sad. This dude was killer.
Yeah, it's amazing. Actually, it's insane that he only has one more. Crazy. Favorite character?
That's
I'm gonna
hard.
go with a religious figure, but not from Diary of a Country Priest. I'm gonna go with the bishop from Discreet, Charming the Bourgeois. He is
Yeah, I
so
definitely,
absurd, but like also so funny. He's like
I
weird.
I definitely agree with that. That he's really good.
Caleb.
I think I'd have to pick the priest just because he's so like fully fleshed out. You know, like you feel like you really get a
Mm-hmm.
sense for who he is.
I think that's fair. Well, Caleb, I'm gonna have you start off. Which movie did you like better?
Priest or Die of a Country Priest.
I was like, what? Yeah, okay. Diary of a Country Priest. Derek, how about you?
I'd say I like Discreet more.
Ah, no. You two
Honestly,
were supposed to agree.
honestly, I really enjoyed both of these movies like a lot. I probably maybe would have put both of them in my top 10 for the first round. Like
Damn.
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed these both a lot.
I don't know. My top 10 was pretty stacked, dude.
Yeah, that's the thing. My top 10 was also pretty stacked, so I probably would put them like just below, but still
Ah!
very high.
Let's see. What I had Monster. Yeah, I had Monster Verdot at number 10. I don't know if.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd probably have them both in my top 15 for sure.
yeah,
Um,
that's accurate. So I really like these both, but Discreet Charm had just so much more to it, and I still definitely do not understand the entirety of this movie.
yeah.
I feel like I could watch this movie. Like I've already watched this once before, and I still do not understand this movie. Like
I think I'm also gonna go with Discreet Charm and the Bourgeoisie
Wow, I'm surprised.
because I really like Diary of a Country Priest,
Yeah.
but I just think like once again, my problems. I had problems with both movies, and I think my problems with Diary of a Country Priest are all but just entirely resolved. I still feel like while I understand a bit better why Diary of a Country Priest did what it did, I still don't know if it's like those problems are completely solved. And also, like, I really enjoyed the aesthetic of it, Caleb. I guess I didn't quite enjoy that aspect of it as much either.
Enjoy what aspect?
Just like the aesthetic of it, just the general kind of.
Uh,
Well, guys, this means though that I've inadvertently caused my almost my worst fear, like my most excited curiosity, which is Louis Bunuel moves on with Un, Shin, and Lao. Which, up there for most important movies ever. The classic, what's the word I'm looking for, guys? Help me out here. Not like alternative.
experimental.
Yes, experimental, yeah. The classic experimental film. And it's going up against The River by Jean Renoir, which is a beautiful movie. That's right. I've seen both. I'm so cool. But yeah.
That was
Next week is going to be Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory versus Federico Fellini's I Veterani. Then we're done with the wild card round. And we can start moving on to the heavy hitters.
can't wait for some heavy hitters.
that was
Ooh, I
a
can't wait.
that was a good round.
That was a great round. But our next round, I think, should be even bigger. It's Kubrick versus Fellini. That's nuts. So make sure to tune in next time. On behalf of Caleb Ferguson and Director.
Wait, our next round is Kubrick versus Fellini?
Yes.
Holy shit. That's going to be a really good round.
Anyways, have a great night. And remember, watch more movies.